Giovanni Aramendiz writes, "Greetings AMC Movie Talk. My question is in regards to movie classics. Would you say that most of the movies we consider classics today are classics more based off of nostalgia than it is anything else? There really wasn't a whole lot of movie critics or the art of it back then as it is today. And most movie critics are those who grew up loving certain movies as a child or because of their parents. But some of those movies wouldn't be considered classics by today's standards, and especially not with the way that critics think today and how they pick certain movies apart. Could it be that the classics are more so untouched and considered classics because of the nostalgia factor rather than the stuff we base movies on today? And could it also be said that if there were such movie criticism then as now, that most of those movies wouldn't have been considered classics at all?"
Well, I understand what Giovanni is trying to say. He's trying to say, you know, maybe classic movies are only considered classics because of nostalgic reasons, and that film criticism wasn't as prevalent as it is today, which is true because of the internet. Everyone can voice their opinion now, but there was always film criticism, even from the beginning when they first started doing, you know, silent films. It's just they had less
theater critics. There were theater critics back
exactly.
then.
But I strongly disagree with this notion because there's plenty of movies that I saw, especially in college for film school, that to me are classics that I have no nostalgic factor, you know, with them. Some of them are Goodfellas, Godfather, His Girl Friday, Clockwork Orange, Raging Bull, The Shining, Singing in the Rain, and a lot of other stuff from different time periods that it's not like I saw them as a kid. I saw them for the first time at that age, and I was like, wow, these blow me away, and I consider these classics. There are a few ones that we call classics, but they're not like in those terms. Like, you know, if we say like Never Ending Story is a classic.
Don't you say it's not. Don't you say it.
But to a certain amount of people, like maybe the generation today that see it, they might not get it.
I mean, Big Trouble in Little China could be the same thing, where people today watch it and they're like, what? And I'm like, you can't.
You think wouldn't that go more guilty movie pleasure than classic?
Yes, probably. Well, it's somewhere in the middle. But I think you're right. I think this is a great question. This is like one of those questions that, again, could have its whole own show. I think it's a combination. I think what makes a classic film in a film critic, excuse my congestion, by the way, guys. I think a classic film is something, like you said, that kind of transcends nostalgia. I think it's something that is bigger and better than nostalgia. And you're right. I remember I took a class on the Western film, and I watched so many Westerns. But I remember seeing, like, you know, High Noon and My Darling Clementine and all these movies and being like, these are still gripping, they're still relevant, there's a timelessness to them. And I think maybe it's that timeless quality, where even if a movie is dated, it's still timeless. And I think that's kind of one of the factors that makes a film classic. It's not the only factor, but I think it's this huge, it's art, right? So there's so many elements that go into what makes a film a classic film. But you're right, nostalgia is an interesting kind of, you know, wild card to throw in there.
You also look at, like, you're a UFC fan. You also look at, like, when you look at the old school UFC, when UFC first started, there are certain fights that you watch that are still very exciting, but they might not have the same type of technical or exciting things that you watch now. The way that it's also certain evolution of film and the way we watch things. That's not to say there are certain films in the 50s and 60s or 40s that have better stories than the kinds of stories that we have today because there were less stories that were rehashed back then. So because once you get further and further into film, it's just things are being, you know, overtold. You get a movie like Casablanca, that holds up. It completely holds up. And for a lot of people, if you're watching, you know, the film fans in general, the hardcore film fans are going to watch, and they'll love movies the way that I guess people still see them as classics. But maybe the average film goer is used to a certain type of speed now in their films, or a certain type of acting or story, so they might not respond the same way. But I still think a classic is a classic when it comes to story, acting. Like the classical acting, the acting was way different.
Yeah, pre-method.
Yeah, and from where they
Before
came
Marlon
from,
Brando.
and it was the transition from, you know, theater into the silver screen. It was very different back then. So I don't know. It's fascinating, but it's a great question.
Yeah, acting and even dialogue. You know, if you look at something like His Girl Friday, like it's just a rapid fire. It's much more theatrical, like you'd see something on the stage, but still a great movie nonetheless.
Gentlemen prefer blondes.
Yeah.
So dated, so much fun. It's
All
not
right.
true, you see? It's not true.
Hey everyone, if you liked this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.